and new questions are always welcome.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be super quick, I promise. Regarding the budget cuts, like with you guys helping out for people that are needing help when they're going through rough times, is that something that's a separate budget for you guys? Like, are you guys you guys will ever have to like cut that, or is that something like you guys will constantly keep no matter what happens?
Yeah.
I'll answer that. When we went through deciding all of these major budget cuts that we announced in March, that line where we are here to support you all was unanimous. We will never cut that. Like, that is such a priority for us. I mean, I guess I can't say never, like that's so definitive, but it was one of our number one priorities to keep that line because it's so a part of our values. And so we chose to keep that over, say, salaries, right? It was more important to us than our own salaries. I know other people are raising their hands. Of the people raising hands, I'll say too, please, if you have feedback and suggestions, you can put those in the form at forefrontnyc.com/feedback, okay? You can also scan the QR code on the screen because we do want to move on to other questions. So if you have a new question, can you raise your hand? Great.
Okay, great. Before you speak, I just want to shout out Amber, our care team deacon, just so folks know who she is. Thank you, Amber.
Hi. I just had a question, because I think one of the things that Josh had said back at like the original town hall was that in terms of demographics, the people who give the most tend to be within an older age range. I think in the statistics that were shown on the screen today, I think something like 55% of the church is 25 to 34, 30, and then 35 to 44, and then up. In terms of like a lot of the outreach, it seems like it's being geared towards a more social media savvy demographic. I'm not part of that. And so I'm just wondering, in terms of leveraging sort of the community we're trying to reach out to and also the needs of the church, how are you trying to balance the need to find younger people, to bring energy, blah, blah, et cetera, but also people who do have financial resources to support the church in a meaningful way? Because it does seem like there's a bit of a disconnect in terms of what we're talking about.
I would say I'm a part of a clergy group for Park Slope. All these pastors get together and we just talk about our churches and things we're going through, right? And all of the churches that are in that group mostly have older congregants, 50 plus, and they're like, wish that they had younger congregants. And so they're like, how do we bring younger people into our church? How do we bring younger people into our church? And I'm like, how do we bring older people into church? How do we bring older people into our church? And we're like, could we swap? Could we switch? What could we do, right? Like, Red Rover, send some more right over. But one of the challenges that I think that I've been able to identify in that is that our worship styles are very different. So there's a generational difference in worship styles, particularly, that I notice is the most prominent thing. They're just much more traditional often in their worship style, and so those churches often are drawing an older demographic versus the contemporary style that we do, or the gospel style that maybe doesn't always identify with that group as much. But honestly, if you think about it, like, something in your life has to cause you to question the worldview you've grown up with, or that you've seen or been exposed to. And so there's a level there of the younger generation seems more quick to question things right now. And this is a space that's really open for questions and less certainty. And so I think it's also just like who we draw based on our values and the things we're appealing to as well. And what we offer in worship style.
Yeah, and it's something we're paying attention to, even as it relates to ensuring that this particular group, maybe some folks who are Gen Xers and things of that nature, feel a sense of belonging. I've spoken to some folks, in their 50s, like me, who are feeling like, is Forefront for me? So that's something we're thinking about. There is a small group that we're starting called Manifest Change. It's not only for Gen Xers or people who are older. However, we feel like it is a good place if people are, in a particular age bracket, to consider coming together to understand that while, yes, most of the folks are between 25 and 35, we see, you as well. So let's just keep that in mind, that this is something that we do talk about, we think about, and we are trying to adjust and accommodate for. So,
I will say that having people who have varying ages on the staff, I think will go a long way to helping us further that long term. People seeing representation, seeing themselves when they walk into a space.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what, sort of along the lines of what I was going to say is that, I find it very interesting because I am a Gen Xer, and so I guess I play so young that,
yeah.
but, and also for those that are more technologically challenged as I am, yeah, it would be, how do we reach our generation if people are not necessarily going on the Insta chat, the Insta Snap, the cart chat, whatever the things are, the Facebook, you know what I mean, case in point. So where it really becomes important is us reaching out one-on-one to our community, sharing about our church with others, sort of like Suzanne had said with the kids, right? To invite people to church, to trust that what we have is accessible for everyone, and to not disqualify or feel like you have to hide this part of your life. So it's good, to share what you found with others.
The next question's here.
Yes. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melody. This is my first time in this building. And so thank you. Hi. You all seem incredible and wonderful, and I feel really lucky to be at this point in your evolution. And my question is a little bit higher altitude. It's, have you all ever grappled with or considered a North Star for the year that informs the way that you approach community and events? So this is me putting my former teacher hat on, right? When we had a curriculum for the year, it really formulated how I wanted my students to grapple with particular content, how I wanted them to learn different mediums, right? And I do understand that there has to be continuity, right, from year to year, maybe in structure, but could determine sort of what sort of events do we have that are geared towards this idea or theme that we want to grapple with as a community all together, and that's what our small groups are about. Or maybe that's what something that came to mind was an intergenerational exchange. What does it look like to have reverse mentorship, where you are in a group intentionally trying to ask your elders, what have you learned, but it's tied to a North Star. So yeah, just something.
I love that.
I'm going to read a question from the virtual community, and then we'll continue going for another, say, 5-10 minutes or so. Daniel Jose, who has COVID right now. Sorry, Daniel Jose. We're praying for you. He says, is there any way to partner or work with some other important spiritual places, like seminaries, so that we can create community and essentially advertise in that way? And then in parentheses, he says, low-key, just looking for a reason to combine my two homes. Because he's now in seminary. I know, very exciting.
I want to answer their question, and then Daniel Jose's.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Did I interrupt a question?
It's-
Oops.
Yeah, it's okay. So
Well,
it's okay.
An answer to Melanie.
Yeah, it was asked, but we just didn't answer.
I'm so sorry.
Well,
We wrote it down
we
as a
can-
great idea.
Can we just speak to it a bit and then go to Daniel Jose's? Love that. Thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you for being here. First timer. Yeah. And love that idea. As you were speaking, I was thinking about the series planning that we all have once or twice a year, right? And it's where we plan the sermon series. But how beautiful would that be if we all come together and sort of incorporate your ideas, where it's not just the sermon series, it's now thinking about the events and some other programs that could parallel and align with some of our sermon series. So there's a lot there that we can continue to think about, and we just appreciate you for expressing yourself and sharing some things that we hadn't considered. So, thank you.
Yeah. I'm so sorry again. Did anyone up here want to speak a little bit to Daniel Jose's idea at all? Or did we just throw it out into the ether?
To Daniel Jose.
Yeah. I will say that we have a sort of unintentional but great tradition, I guess, that has happened at Forefront where we end up sending a lot of our staff and other folks here at Forefront off to seminary. We've definitely inspired a lot of people to go to seminary, so I'm curious how we can follow up further with partnering with them. We've considered it before. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yes. I did make friends with the president of General Theological, which is Episcopal seminary here. And so one of the things we've been talking about are like what are maybe ways we could partner for interns and ministry that we could maybe do together. So that is something that we are in active conversation about as well.
It's Megan, then Leslie, and Kyle, then Amber, and then we'll probably, yeah. Let's keep that as the cue.
Hi, my name is Megan, pronoun she, hers. So one of the reasons why a lot of Americans are not attending church, like why church attendance is dropping nationwide is because, lots of doubts, lack of trust in the church leaders. But there was a report like about a month ago or so that said that one reason is because a lot of Americans and a lot of New Yorkers definitely and Brooklynites is that they're too busy to attend church. We are a very busy city. People are, running around, working 40 plus hours a week, maybe doing a second job. If they have families, they have that. If they have other commitments, they have that. They have grad school. There's so much going on. So how would you work to attract people to Forefront and actually squeeze in one more hour of into their already packed schedule?
I would recommend, the thing that I tell people most of the time when they ask me things about the church is I encourage them to look at the past sermons and the information that we have online because they can tune in virtually. And you can tune in on Sundays virtually, so you don't have to leave your house, which means that you don't have the commute time. You can do that from your couch. And if you're not able to watch it on Sunday for whatever reason, you can plug it in. There's times that we pull out the sermon and put it just by itself on social media where you can just listen to it during your lunchtime while you're working. There are ways that we can get engaged without having to feel so burdened. We make it very easy by offering a lot of different options of doing it that way. And also, with the small groups some of the small groups that we have, like mine, not plugging, but we have a very flexible schedule. And one of the reasons why we have a flexible schedule is because we know that people are busy, and we try to meet when the majority of us can. And if it means that we meet instead of weekly, we meet 3 weeks in a row and then don't meet for a month, and that's what we do. We do whatever we can to engage, and we also have a chat that we talk in. So those are kind of things where you could do those things and still be able to run around in this city, although I would encourage you to slow down if you can, that you can engage with the community without having to physically be in the space.
And I will say to Benny's point, we have to reimagine what church is. It doesn't just have to be Sunday morning, right? And so whatever people make or feel church is, that's good. And that's good enough. You don't have to guilt yourself. And so just creating that space, that wiggle room for people to define it and to be engaged in it at what their comfort level is.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Amber. I had a question related to the one earlier about the demographics with a smaller, like we have a young adult population and a smaller older, and also seemingly absent teenagers. And I've just kind of wondered, where has the leadership already sort of puzzled on that, or thought? And it's not that I necessarily think, like you were saying, Josh, that churches that have other demographics in their spaces, it's not that we need to accommodate to be everything to everyone just for the sake, but how much richer we are as a community when we are intergenerational, and that speaks to the above 50 as well as the teens. And I know, bandwidth becomes like a question, what spaces and what would we need to engage teens? But I do wonder what families maybe are not coming because they maybe show up and it doesn't seem to be something speaking to their 15 and 17-year-old.
Yeah, that's something that we have been struggling with getting back. I mean, we had a very robust teen attendance. We had a lot of families that had teenage children. And unfortunately, most of those families chose to stop coming when we became affirming, right? And so, Godspeed to you. We are going to be affirming. But we have not necessarily recovered from that as far as that particular demographic. But that is something that is on our radar and on our wish list.
And just one other quick thing to that. We have had a number of preteens coming in who don't want to go downstairs, understandably, because most of our kiddos are the ages that you see running around right now, and that deters them, and it makes sense. But we are trying, I'm sure Suzanne's going to speak to this a little bit, but we are trying to make note of that, speak to those parents about what those kids might want. It's more like a middle school population than a high school population, which is a great start. They're going to be high schoolers soon. And we've had volunteers say in the past few years, they'd be open to hosting a weekday middle school small group or something like that, like a youth group kind of a thing. But we haven't had the kids come in to need that. So it's kind of like chicken or egg kind of a thing. But they're starting to come, and we want more of that, of course. But Suzanne.
Yes, we have about 3 or 4 individuals that I would say, are in the middle school group. And I think what's challenging for us, to me, if there's one kid who needs it, then we need it. But with the staff and with the volunteers, that becomes challenging. So we're looking for the middle schoolers. One thing we're going to start, and 2 have already replied that they'd love to do it, is to kind of be our helpers downstairs and work with the kids, and then also start their own small group during the week and figuring out whether that's virtually or in person. I mean, getting 3 or 4 of them together is much easier than trying even to get them here on a Sunday morning. I think working with their schedules individually. And again, right now there's only 4, but we hope even as some of our kids start to age up, lesson planning downstairs has become more challenging because there's 3-year-olds up to 8-year-olds, and those are 2 very, right there, that span in and of itself. So I hope, what I predict is there soon enough will be the nursery, lower elementary, upper elementary, including middle school, and just we'll have to kind of gear the lesson planning to all of them and just, add elements to it for the older kids. But also empower them that they have a lot to teach the younger ones already.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you. We're mindful of time. Kyle?
I'll be quick. Kyle Mab, he, him is. I just want to first acknowledge just the tremendous effort that you all have put together just in this town hall and as a congregation. Those of you who are on stage just hold us down, and also those of you who are not on stage who make this church run. We are such a special place. We're also fragile. And I think that needs to be acknowledged. But, yet we've persisted through so many changes. And I am so proud of this community. I'm so proud to be part of it. I think that we're something special here. So thank you for all the work that all of you do, and those of you, in front of us that continue to do. I just want that to be acknowledged. And I want us also to be able to dream. We talk a lot about money, and that's really important. I like the transparency of it. But, after we restore your budgets, after we restore your salaries, what happens? I'd love for us to be able to talk about that. What's next? I want to be excited about that together as a community again. That's all. That's for the ether.
Good. Did Leslie have something? Leslie? I appreciate it.
I'm an old timer. Y'all have heard my voice so many times. I was like, let everybody else go. But no, just in the spirit of dreaming and how we continue to grow both physically and fiscally, have we put thought into our future kind of philanthropic or strategic partnerships and, again, larger sourcing of funding, but also continuing to elevate the patronage in terms of, you know, people who got money and people who are out there, live in the city, that network, now that Manhattan is gone, how do we get across the water in a more strategic way to act? Ooh. Yeah, that was good. Okay.
It's because you're past.
Okay, I'll come over here. Yeah, just have we thought about that in terms of strategies of how we move forward? Because again, when I think of our priorities as a church community are so relevant and are so needed, and I think it in itself will draw so many people in if we're able to expand our bandwidth a bit.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Leslie. We appreciate that. We will continue to consider that. We do have a form if you did not get a chance to comment or ask a question. We will be including that in the newsletter this week, and also, what? Oh, right. Thank you. Thanks. forefrontnyc.com/feedback. All right, and I think we need all hands on deck.
Yes, I
to
was
help.
just going to say, we have 5 minutes before we have to get out of here. So we thank you so much for your feedback. If you are physically able to grab a piece of our items over there and bring it out to the van, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.